Welcome to Lights, Camera, Cash, the podcast where creativity meets cash flow. I'm your host, Nicole Sellers, and I'm here to help you unleash the superstar within and turn your creativity and charisma into a money-making machine. Today, I'm diving into career transitions with former New York News anchor, best-selling author, LinkedIn expert, and founder of Breaking Out of Breaking News Academy, Sarah Davenport. Sarah spent decades on the air as an award-winning TV news anchor and called it quits after one grueling night at the anchor desk, 9 months pregnant, drove her to say goodbye to the daily grind. Her entrepreneurial spirit led her to start several online businesses, which gave her the freedom and flexibility to be present with her 4 children and design a life she loves. All right, Sarah Davenport, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. We've got so much in common. I think we're going to have a long chat today, and hopefully it's a good one.
It really is going to be a good chat. And what I love about your background is not only were you in news for decades, but you branched out into a lot of entrepreneurial journeys that a lot of our listeners are starting to dabble in, get started in. They're aspiring entrepreneurs. So I want to kind of start where the news pivot happened. You pivoted out of news into a lot of different things. But let's talk about your news journey for a second. You grew up in a household with a mom who was a very famous news anchor. So you saw these things firsthand, how it affected your household, your childhood, your family dynamic. Talk a little bit about your background and how you got to where you are today, but really how that affected you and, your career journey.
Absolutely. I think I have a very unique perspective on the news industry that there are very few people out there that have this. My mom was one of the first female anchors on television in the 1970s. So women were really not on camera beforehand. So when she came onto the scene, I think 71 or 72, it was around the time that Oprah was starting, right? So my mom and Oprah actually went and had their, I think, haircut the first time or went to their first professional salon together in New York. So my mom grew up in a really interesting time where women were just getting into TV. When I was born, by that point, she was an established TV anchor. So Philadelphia and Chicago, every billboard, every bus, every magazine had her picture. Now, as the daughter of a TV anchor, obviously I was so proud of her. But what I learned was when people introduced me, they either say, "Oh, this is Diane Allen's daughter," or would they say, "This is my friend Sarah." So I realized that having someone who's famous in your life, sometimes your friends were choosing you because of the famous side versus who you really were. And my identity really was tied up in the news industry for so long because of that. And then I went ahead and followed in her footsteps, although she begged me not to, and we can talk about why. But she begged me not to do it because she saw the changes in TV. And so even in the last 5 years, people have been able to see it's more, if it bleeds, it leads, right? You've heard that phrase before. Or really, it's more just short form, quick, grab someone's attention instead of long form stories, documentaries where you can really do a deep dive. That just doesn't really exist in local TV anymore. And if you notice, more and more people on air are getting younger and younger with less experience. You're watching the news going, wait, how are they having all these technical issues? Why is the screen looking blue instead of focus? Like what? And the industry has changed dramatically. I got out right as this massive change was happening, but now there's a mass exodus from TV news because people are going, I'm fed up. There's no work-life balance. They are tired of being tired. They're tired of chasing hurricanes instead of chasing their kids. They want more. And that's why a lot of TV newsies are actually going the entrepreneurial route. And that is actually where my mom ended up after television as well.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of options out there. And now with social media, people can see all the options that are available to them. So they're looking at this saying, why am I killing myself? And I, as a former newsie, went through the same exact thing. I remember sitting in my car, crying my eyes out, saying, I cannot do this anymore. I was so burnt out. And a lot of your clients are burnt out as well. And that's why you developed your course, which we'll get into in a little bit. But just that process of getting burnt out and then saying to yourself, is there something else out there for me? What else can I do with these skills? Because I felt stuck, and I can imagine a lot of your clients feel stuck as well. What was really that turning point for you where you said enough is enough?
This is going to be a crazy story, and people are not going to believe that I said yes to this. But When you work in the TV industry, you don't say no to your boss. You don't say no to your news director or your general manager. I was 9 months pregnant and I was due to be induced on a Monday morning at 6 a.m. And this had been scheduled out for a long time. I actually have 4 boys. So this was the birth of one of my boys. And I was the morning show anchor. They moved me to weekends right before I gave birth. And that last weekend, I said, listen, I'm having the baby Monday morning. So if I could just finish out my morning show, my Monday through Friday shift, have the weekend to prepare, that would be great. And they said, Sarah, your viewers are going to forget who you are really quickly when you're on maternity leave for that long. If you're going to take a full 3 months, they're going to forget who you are. So we really want you to anchor this weekend just so they can be reminded one last time. And I said, well, the 10 o'clock news, I wouldn't get home till we're off the air at 10:30. I'd get home at 11:30. I'd go to bed by 1, and I've got to be at the hospital at 5 a.m. to have a baby. And they said, we don't want our viewers to forget who you are. You really need to do this. Now, anyone in the right mind would say, heck no, I'm out, done. And I said yes. And I anchored that 10 p.m. newscast and had the baby in the morning.
And you say this and it sounds so insane, but I totally would have done the same thing. And I think people in news understand that the job always came first. You never say no to your news director. So I feel like I probably would have done the same thing. And I think a lot of people listening who were in the news business would have done the same thing. And you almost feel obligated, or you do feel obligated in that sense, to say yes to everything because you're afraid of losing your job and the status of being a news anchor, right? So walk us through that day. What was that evening into the morning like with the birth of your son?
I went to work crying. I'm going to have a new baby in my arms within 24 hours and I'm in tears. Was it hormones? Maybe, but it was more of what I just said yes to. And why am I not home preparing the house? Why am I not home folding the little blankets one last time? Why am I not home just checking on my overnight bag? Why am I not home cuddling my kids before a new baby's brought into their life? Why? Why is this happening? And it was so overwhelming. And during those 3 months, I was a wreck. It may have been a little bit of postpartum, I'm not sure, but it was more than anything of going, I can't go back. If they're asking me to do this, I can't go back. If this is how the industry is going, I can't go back. And that's when I realized, as moms, we leave a legacy for our children, not just by what we say, but by what we do and what we agree to and how we put ourselves out there. And I thought, I'm not leaving a legacy for my kids to say, I'm going to let other people push me over. I want to design a life I live. I want to design a life I love. I want to not live a life by default anymore, but I want to be in control.
I love that. And that's so inspiring. And I think so many people listening in need to hear that there are other options for you and you're not stuck no matter what. And I remember the most empowering thing that I ever said was that day that I was crying in the car. And I remember calling my husband saying, I cannot do this anymore. And hearing the validation from him saying, well, then don't. And I kept thinking to myself, I've been putting this on myself the whole time. Nobody else was putting this pressure on me. But as overachievers, which so many of us are, right? We're all perfectionists, many of us, especially in the news industry. The work ethic is so hard that you almost feel like you're going to let somebody down. So I think it's important for our listeners to hear this conversation and understand you're not letting anyone down. You're not disappointing anyone. This is your life and you have to do what you have to do to enjoy it, enjoy your family, enjoy your life. Who knows how, when your last day on earth is going to be. And that was a turning point for me too. So very similar situations where your family comes first and you have to kind of figure out how you're going to navigate the power of the pivot, which you said so well. Talk a little bit about pivoting. When you did decide to leave, what were the first steps? What did you do first?
That's a great question. So while on maternity leave, I was just in my heart, I knew I had to find a plan B. And for everyone listening, if you don't have that husband who's supportive like you had and like I had, I want this to be your supportive crew. Like, we've got your back and we're telling you, you can do this. You don't have to be a one-trick pony. There are so many talents and skills that you personally have that God has gifted you that maybe you haven't uncovered. Maybe the last time you dreamed was kindergarten, right? And you were daydreaming out the window and the teacher's like, Sarah, stop daydreaming. Like, let's focus. We're writing our ABCs. We stop daydreaming. We take our dreams, we put them up on a shelf, they get dusty, and we forget about them. I'm encouraging everyone to pull those dreams down, dust them off, and go back through, figure out, where do your passions lie? What other talents do you have that make you unique? Because like I said, you're not a one-trick pony. There are a lot of things out there, but you have to find out what lights you up. And so if you could look forward to 5 years from now, what would your life look like? Are you still on the hamster wheel of life? Or on a Monday morning when your feet hit the floor, do you light up? Are you excited about a Monday? Because I got to tell you, over 90% of Americans are not. They are going through the routine. They despise Mondays. They're working for hump day Wednesday, Friday, woohoo, and Saturday's great. And then Sunday. Sunday hits and the Sunday scaries and the pit in your stomach's back, and you do it all over again. What if you had a plan B? What if there was a way out? And that's what I spent my maternity leave doing. I'd be nursing my baby and taking notes on my old journalist notepad, like coming up with ideas. What can I do? And I will tell you, I immediately pivoted into the entrepreneurial space. I did some freelance television. I got involved in social selling, and I started coming up with ideas for my own businesses. So I really went several different directions, and then I honed it down, because you guys, you can't just throw spaghetti on the wall and expect, oh, well, this is sticking. Oh, tomorrow that sticks. And you can't, be running around like a chicken with its head cut off. So I then narrowed it down to what I really wanted and what would lead me to that life 5 years from now, where Mondays were exciting and my life was truly leaving a legacy.
I love that. And I want to talk about transferable skills, because for a lot of our listeners who are former newsies, we have a ton of skills that we don't realize that we have that are transferable to other professions. When you talk to your clients, or even within your workshop and your course, do you talk about transferable skills? And if so, what are some of those main transferable skills that people can take with them?
That's a great question, because transferable skills are the skills that most people don't even realize they have. They think they have the skill that's listed out on a job description. So, if you're in a job and it says that you need to write press releases and that you need to be able to write 3 or 4 pieces of content a day, and you think, well, that's what I do. Those are my skills, but you're not digging deeper, right? So you want to dig deeper and take that kind of 30,000 foot view, like the Google Zoom. Imagine Google Earth, like if you could zoom out and see and go, oh, if I look down, like there's so many things I do. They could be random skills. Like in television, we know how to read a room. We have discernment unlike anybody else, right? Because you could be interviewing someone, right away if this is a load of what, or is this person heartfelt and it's true what they are saying. We know how to handle tough subjects. We also know that you can't come back without a story. So in news, when they say, okay, I want you to do a minute 40 package and you need to do 2 VOs for 30 seconds. So 2 voiceovers for 30 seconds on a story, and 1 big story that really isn't that big because it's a minute 40. We can't come back at the end of the day and go, no one would talk. I couldn't find an angle. Sorry. Because then you're going to end up with a minute 40 of color bars on TV, of dead air. Like, you can't let that happen. So as a TV newsie, and as a lot of people out there, we know in our hearts, we can't let other people down. We can't let ourselves down or our bosses down. We have to, no matter what. So the word no really doesn't mean a lot to those of us who are in TV. The word no, switch that around. On, game on, let's go, right? You say no, I'm going to find a way around it. That is a huge skill that most people don't realize they have, but then they don't know how to translate that to a hiring manager or on a resume. And that's where a lot of folks come to me. They're like, help me find out my transferable skills. Help me find out how to translate what I do or what I love to a resume, to paper, or actually in person. What a lot of TV newsies find as they start going through this process is that maybe they don't want to work for a typical job. Maybe something inside them says, I'm an entrepreneur at heart. And that is exactly what I found, and so many others find.
And I want to talk about the income streams. There are so many income streams that you took advantage of with within the entrepreneurial journey, and I think a lot of us have that in us, what are some of the income streams that you were able to kind of jump into that you found to be the most beneficial?
So, learning the difference between residual income, so linear income and residual income. So, linear income is a type of income where you do work for 10 hours, you get paid for 10 hours, right? So, I do ghostwriting on LinkedIn. I actually work for different industries, some in social selling, some in brick and mortar, right? In, the industrial rehab space. Like, what a bizarre space to be in. But I actually really enjoy researching, digging in, and then writing the content and figuring out fun marketing strategies. But I work a certain number of hours, I get paid a certain number of hours. That's linear. And that's what a traditional 9 to 5 job is, right? You work your 40 hours, and at the end of the 2 weeks, you get paid for those 2 weeks of work. So linear is great, but linear, you're constantly looking for new work. Residual income, though, once I understood this, I thought I would go through a brick wall to get to residual income. So how do you make residual income? You could be a singer, right? But I have a horrible voice, so I'm not going to put out an album. My kids are like, "Mom, really? Twinkle, twinkle, we're good, thanks." You can write a book. Think of J.K. Rowling, right? She wrote those books, 20 plus years ago? She's still making a fortune. She did the work once and continuously gets paid over and over. So that's residual income. There are also different ways to do it through like network marketing or social selling as an influencer, right? So you get into influencing, you put a code up on social media, someone uses that, they love it, then they tie into your account, and every time they reorder, you get paid. It might be a small amount, but that's residual income. So there are many different ways to make both linear income on your own as an entrepreneur and residual income. Obviously, residual income could be, we've bought extra real estate, right? And so you could do a VRBO, you could flip houses, right? So that's, again, more income. But you have to find what resonates in your heart, right? Because I could tell you all of those things and you go, I'm going to write a book, but then you actually hate to write. Like, don't do that. I'm going to go flip a house. Okay, the smell of fresh paint makes me sick. Like, that's not going to work, right? Like, so you got to find what you love. For me, I'm very passionate about the health and wellness industry. My husband is a colon cancer survivor. He was diagnosed in his early 40s. I had 4 very young children at the time, and having to tell them, Daddy's got cancer, and I don't know what the future holds. And it was a horrible, scary, overwhelming time in my life. But it had our family make a massive pivot in that we really try to find things that are more plant-based, not just food, but products, because whatever you put on your skin gets in your bloodstream in like 60 seconds. So super important to read labels. I love to educate people on that. I thought, what can I do in that industry? So finding your passions and then uncovering an industry that would go along with it.
Yeah, and uncovering your passions sometimes can take a while because I
Yeah.
think for so many years when you are working in a linear situation like that 9 to 5 job, you forget a lot of your passions and what you like because you're just so focused on getting the job done. I want to jump into LinkedIn a little bit because you are a LinkedIn expert and coach. And I know LinkedIn is such a crucial part of the transition process when you are transitioning out of a career into a new one. Are there any tips and strategies on how to really utilize LinkedIn to the best of your knowledge? How have you been using it?
That's a great.
Like what you're hearing so far? Then you're going to love all the content and support inside TV Hosting Academy's Green Room membership. Member perks include small group coaching with me, Nicole Sellers, access to industry insiders who share all the secrets to on-camera success, and a monthly think tank session with a tribe of like-minded creatives. Check out all the details in the show notes. See you inside the Green Room.
LinkedIn is probably one of the most misunderstood social media platforms. People are scared of it, right? They don't know what to do on LinkedIn. They're like, I think I'm supposed to like connect with people, and I'm scrolling and I put up my title, and now what? How do I get a job? I'll scroll through jobs. People scroll and stalk and they have no idea what they're doing, and they're missing 90% of the abilities LinkedIn has And I'll tell you, LinkedIn actually is what changed my life, which is crazy to say. I am so passionate about this social media platform because I think if more people understood, especially entrepreneurs, that there is a huge opportunity for them on LinkedIn, truly, it could change so many people's lives. So ask me any question about LinkedIn because I love talking about it. I could talk all day about it.
So I love LinkedIn, the simplicity of it, and that it's all mostly geared towards professionals. So I love that aspect of it. Like, you're not getting a lot of like dramatic posts or anything that's very TikTok worthy, which I like as a professional. So are there specific things that you should be incorporating into your profile that would make your profile jump, up the ranks? Or are there keywords that you should be using? Should you be incorporating special skill sets within the descriptions? Like, are there tips and tricks on how to become more discoverable on LinkedIn?
Absolutely. So think of this. LinkedIn is like a landing page, your profile. And most people have no idea that. Your profile page, your landing page is what is going to sell you. Your goal is to get people to click on your profile page so they can then learn more about you. Hopefully, you've got a call to action if you're an entrepreneur. And the call to action could be reach out to me in the messages, like send me a quick DM, or it could be if you want more information on my upcoming course, or do you want to know more about my skills as a ghostwriter? There should be a featured section. So most people don't utilize the featured section of LinkedIn. You need to. You should have 2 or 3 things in there that are calls to action. Most people don't know how to use their about section. Most about sections, as you scroll through LinkedIn, you'll realize the about section are almost like it's like their resume. They've rewritten their resume on their about section. Huge no, like don't do that. Your about section is your chance to shine, to grab someone's attention. And in TV, we know how to write a heck of a tease, right? Coming up next, 3-headed monkey at the Houston Zoo. Stay tuned. And you're like, oh my gosh, there's a 3-headed monkey. I need to stay tuned. I'm not going to go anywhere. We know how to write killer hooks. And that is the key in posting content, getting people to click on your posts. And then they want to see your profile. They go to your profile. It's like a landing page. They're like, well, this is different than anything I've seen. And oh, this featured section, this sounds interesting. I need to reach out. I'm not doing all the reach outs. I'm not spamming people. They're coming to me because I know the algorithm. I know how to post. I know how to write for them. And my landing page, which is my profile, grabs their attention. So I love teaching people and kind of going through LinkedIn and showing them how they can revamp. There's simple things they can do, simple things to learn about the algorithm. Most people don't understand how the algorithm works. I'll tell you one thing. LinkedIn is like, don't Instagram me. Don't Instagram my LinkedIn. So we don't need the inspirational, like, oh, grab a cup of coffee. Life's going to be great. Like, that's not what they want, right? That's great for Facebook. Or, from this morning while I was eating my Cheerios, I realized, no, this is professional, but you can still have fun with it. It's finding that balance. Also, here's a tip. LinkedIn only wants 3 to 5 hashtags. And hashtags are key because a lot of people in industries will search by hashtag. So I do research and find when I put my hashtags in, I want one with big reach, medium reach, and small reach, right? So something very niche down at the end. So I research the hashtags I use, and I only use 3 to 5. If you're putting out 8 or 10, they're like, hey, you're Instagramming us over here. Cut it out. We're not going to push you out to as many people. Another way to get more eyeballs on your profile, on your landing page, is to have at least 500 connections. When LinkedIn sees you have 500, they're like, aha, this person takes us seriously. Aha, we want to push out their content to more people and show them to more people, right? So if you're hovering around 400, I challenge you, like, get to 500 quickly. If you're not even close, because when I started, I had 86 connections, you guys, 86. I paid zero attention to LinkedIn before I started going through all the trainings I needed to do to become a LinkedIn expert. 86. I'm like, okay, I guess I'm starting over from scratch. And I will tell you, it's not about having huge numbers. Though. If you're thinking, how am I going to get to 10,000? How am I going to get to 100,000? Again, you're thinking Instagram, you're thinking TikTok. This is very different. I actually only have 2,800 connections. And my posts, my content go out on average to 20,000 to 80,000 people every post. So 80,000 people see what I post, and I have 2,000 connections. And so when I post something, it gets pushed out to another network, it just spreads. I don't want to say it spreads like COVID, way too soon. It spreads like Ebola, right? It spreads like glitter. It spreads like glitter, right?
Glitter,
Let's
I
go with
like that
glitter.
one.
It spreads like glitter. So that's what you need to think about when you're putting content out there. Make sure it adds value. Make sure you're consistent. Make sure that you are putting out things that your network wants to see. Because if you can do that and create a network that really is engaged with what you are saying, you can build an amazing business. And I will tell you that my Breaking Out of Breaking News Academy, which is the academy that I founded and I run for people in television news, I have never once paid for advertising. Not a dime on a Facebook ad, an Instagram ad, a LinkedIn. No. I built up a network and a following that when I put out and say, hey, I'm doing this course, or hey, I'm offering personalized coaching, I'm flooded with inbox requests. I'm flooded with, hey, can we set up a discovery call and chat more? Because I have used LinkedIn to its fullest, and I know how to create that audience. You guys, that's the secret sauce. When you're an entrepreneur, if you don't want to waste money in the ad space, because a lot of people make that mistake. They go, okay, I have a new online business, and it could be a t-shirt business. It could be voiceovers. It could be whatever it is that you're making cash in another area. They start spending cash just as fast advertising. They're not getting the click-throughs. They're not getting the return on investment. They're not converting people. They get frustrated and they drop their idea thinking, well, this just didn't work. No, you just were wasting money on an area where you didn't need to be. I'm telling you, LinkedIn is the place to build up your online business. And you're, as an entrepreneur, it's a place to be. It's not just for people with a 9 to 5 trying to move up the career ladder. It is 100% a place for entrepreneurs.
I love that. And I love that you gave those tangible tips that we can all start to implement right away. I want to talk about your course, your academy. It's not just for newsies, but it is really geared toward kind of that mass exodus of journalists leaving the news industry. Tell us about what you cover in this course, because I can imagine it's a lot of clarity, a lot of clarification on kind of where to go when you leave and what your options are. Run us through a few of the things that you go through in your academy.
It really is for people who are burned out and they don't know what direction to go in. Maybe your identity is tied to the current industry you're in. Maybe you haven't dreamed in a long time and you don't know where those passions are. Like you said, right? Like we go. We forget who we are. Maybe it's someone who's like, gosh, I haven't done a resume in 100 years, or I don't know how to use LinkedIn. And that's what we cover literally from the beginning to end. It is a holistic approach to designing a life you love. So we start with those passions, because if you don't know who you are, I mean, for me, my identity was I was a mom of 4. I was a TV anchor and known in the area. I was all these things, but it wasn't who I am and what my talents are, my God-given passions. Like it wasn't that. So we uncover that. We spend quite a bit of time in that. We do some career assessment tests to figure out, okay, are your passions aligned with what you think you want? And then we move in from there, figuring out, okay, yes, we can do a resume. Absolutely. There are so many things that people are, I don't know, they're scared about resumes. This whole ATS system, like, oh, I've applied for 100 jobs. I keep getting rejection letters. Yeah. Well, if you've been designing your resume on Canva, that could be one of the issues, because a lot of Canva resumes do not get through that system. And the ATS
Oh, that's
system,
so interesting. Can I stop you there for a second?
Yeah.
Because we live in such a visual world, a lot of people design their resumes in Canva. Tell us why that does not work.
Here's so funny. I'll show you 2 examples. Here are a couple of resumes that will possibly get through and possibly would not. So what would you think? Would this resume look better? I'm covering this person's face.
Okay.
Or this resume. One's very old school, and this one has graphics, and it really points out her skills, her education. You can see how to follow her on Facebook and Twitter.
See, I'm such a visual person. I'd be like, I want that one.
Right, absolutely. And the thing is, these computer systems, if you're applying to a position where there are more than 20 employees, Most companies use this tracking system because they type in the keywords. So they say, here are top 10 to 20 keywords that are really important to us in this job description. Then when you submit your resume, the system scans your resume for the keywords. Are they in there? And that's a huge issue because a lot of people just take one size fits all and throwing my resume out. Again, that spaghetti on the wall approach doesn't work. And then they also send ones that are so super pretty. Well, guess what? That computer system cannot read graphics. And when you have different colors and your photos on there, you don't get through the system. So over 70, some are saying closer to 80% of resumes never get seen by hiring managers because of those little factors. Now, you can find on the internet for free job scanning sites that will take your resume and put it through an ATS system and say, will this even get in? You will be shocked when you find out that the majority of the people who are running their resumes are not going to get through that system. They went, but Canva, it looks so pretty. And you got rejected 20 times. It wasn't your fault. It wasn't your skills. It was the dang resume.
I am blown away right now because I have been doing my resume on Canva over the years because I am just a very visual person. And I thought, oh, I'm going to stand out. This will be great. But like you said, it's going through a system. Very rarely will an actual person get their hands on this resume, right? Because it's going through the system.
And then when they do get the hand, so let's say they got this old school one, it passed through the system, great keywords, great way that they explain their transferable skills, they translated it well. What does the hiring manager do first? They go to your LinkedIn. So again, the importance of LinkedIn. Are you standing out as a thought leader? Are you really making a strong impression? Is your LinkedIn profile spit shined? Or are you just kind of average on there? Because if you're just average and your resume is a little average, guess what? You're not getting the job.
I love it. I love all of these tips that we're going to implement right away. And the transferable skills, I think, is something that people always get stuck on. Mm-hmm. Is there a way to, or maybe there's a tool or software that you've used in the past to kind of figure out what those transferable skills are? Because I can imagine, like many of us, we'll go on LinkedIn and we'll look at jobs that look interesting to us, right? Maybe we'll hand select, the skills here that are in the description or the role description, that's what I'll use on my resume. Is there like some sort of like a secret sauce to figuring out what these transferable skills are and how to translate it, to really stand out on a resume?
And it's interesting. That's why my course takes 3 months, because we really spend time. It's not something you can do just in a quick little, here they are, boom, 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 because every person's different, right? So even though I have the transferable skill of I can turn something on a deadline, I don't want to do that anymore. I did that in TV for decades. I don't want to do that. So even though it's a skill, is that something I want to show up on my resume? Is that something that I want to do going forward? Interestingly, there's a mass exodus from TV news in Europe as well. I have so many people from the BBC contacting me going, help me get out. Like, what do I do? And so I'm actually opening up an arm of my business for Europe and also another arm of my business in Australia, because we have the same transferable skills, but we have different, the job market looks a little different. Resumes are done a little different in each country. But what I found is so many people will say to me, Sarah, just tell me what's the typical job people go into? Or if they're an entrepreneur, like what could we do? It depends on who you are. We got to sit in that for a minute. We really got to take that time. There are some amazing books out there. A friend of mine, Deanna Herron, she's written a book called Unbecoming, The Journey to Her. And she goes through her path as to what that looked like. Really kind of, she worked in the healthcare industry. She was a physician's assistant, made a great income, and actually got into social selling, one of the top 10 income earners in this company. But then the question was, is that who she was? And is that what she wanted to do going forward? And so she's one of my mentors. When I was looking at, starting different businesses, I had to get clear on what do I want and who am I at the core?
And that clarity piece is so important. So as we start to wrap up our conversation, because I want to leave it there because this has been so informative and just an unbelievable conversation for both of us. But what I want to end on is, where can people find you? Do you have anything coming up? And where can we find this academy?
Absolutely. So where can you find me? I am on LinkedIn 24/7. You will not find me on TikTok. I rarely am on Instagram and Facebook. That's where my kids, you'll see my kids playing sports. You don't need to see all that. I'm one of those crazy moms who take a lot of pictures of their kids. So as far as professionally, find me on LinkedIn, Sarah Davenport, and you will see that I literally have as my title. Here's another little tip for you. Your title needs to be more than your job, right? So I don't say former TV news anchor at all. So I encourage you guys to go look and see what I said as my title, because that might encourage you to come up with something creative as well. So I'm on LinkedIn. You can find me at my main website, sarahdavenport.net. But if you're a TV newsie, let's get you out of that industry if you're burned out. And that's where you go to breakingoutofbreakingnews.com. And that's the academy I run that talks about my coaching services as well. And I have a book that came out, became a best-selling author and a collaborative book. If you need to be inspired about pivoting, it's called Living All Out. And there's 20 different entrepreneurs' journeys of that massive pivot and what they did. So again, it's Living All Out. You can find it on Amazon. We went bestseller, I think, in 5 or 6 categories. It was so exciting.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you. And then we have, and then my podcast is coming out. So take a peek at that. That's going to be a couple months down the road, but mic drop moments. And if you want to know what's really going on in the TV industry and what life is like, come check us out there.
Oh, Sarah, thank you so much. This was such an incredible conversation. I'm so grateful for you and for stopping by. And thank you everyone else for listening. And we will see everyone next time. Bye, everyone.
Thank you to Sarah Davenport for coming on the show, and thank you for listening. Go to tvhostingacademy.com, click on courses, check out what we have coming up so far in our events tab, and I hope to see you guys next time. Until then, happy creating.